Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 242 of Prog Review. And if you haven't read the title or description, I was talking about Mike Oldfield's Man on the Rocks. In this case, it's the, I don't know, is it called a Super Deluxe Edition or something? It's got extra disc and some cards. Peel back. I'm not going to do annotations. I'm not going to do that because when you do annotations on YouTube, YouTube changes the algorithm or the software, and then they end up going all wrong. So I don't bother with annotations. So just peel back, and you can see me unbox said box set. Or maybe I could include it in this. I don't know. You just wouldn't believe how difficult it is to record videos these days. Very hard to get peace and quiet. I suffer for my art. But anyway, I'm beginning to digress somewhat. This is Mike Oldfield's 25th studio album, and it's a diversion because he's done a rock album. It was originally going to be called Rock. Well, that's like the working title. That's why it's called Man on the Rocks. Yeah, Man on the Rocks. It's a play on words, and yeah, I mean, it's an album of singy songs. There's no instrumentals. Well, there are. There's a CD of instrumentals. All the songs, instruments. There's a bonus disc, but they're not instrumental songs per se. They're songs with words and vocals. And there's thankfully, Oldfield's not singing. We have a young singer called Luke Spiller of a band called The Struts. Don't worry, I've not heard of them either, but you should check out their videos. They're quite good. Luke Spiller's quite good. And yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as Earth Moving. That was his last attempt at an album full of songs. Before that, you had like Islands, which was, you know, half a side of songs and half instrumental. But yeah, Earth Moving was the real stinker. Anyway, I was just having a flashback, Vietnam style flashback to when I got that one, and back in the day, what was that, 1990 I think it was. Was it? No, 89 I think. Oh God. He redeemed himself with Amarok though, so they're around the same time, aren't they? I've turned into a gibbering idiot. Anyway, that's because it's taken me about 20 minutes just to set this all up without my son having a meltdown, and you know, because you can hear him have a meltdown. That's the pleasures of having a child on the autistic spectrum. You can't reason with them. You can't say, could you play in your room? Because they go off on one, you know. Even though they enjoy playing in their room, if you want them to do it, they have a meltdown. It's like trying to make a life-size sculpture of the Sistine Chapel out of mashed potato. Yeah, probably not the best analogy. But anyway, this album's it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's a long time coming, this review, because I'm going to peel back, because I did order it when it came out, but then they lost it. It got lost, and I had to wait for a refund, and then I had to try and order it again because they'd run out of stock. So then I finally got a copy, and then I put it in a box, and then we moved, and then I couldn't find the box, and I found the box, and now we're doing the review. Anyway, it's not all bad. It's not bad. The real good thing about the record is actually Luke Spiller's voice. Luke Spiller is the young lad who does all the vocals on it, and he's like kind of a hybrid rock and roll vocalist. He's part Freddie Mercury, part Mick Jagger. You know, he is like a what would you call it? He has a very standard rock vocal style, but it's very affable. It's a very acceptable sound. Great range. The rest of the musicians on the album are like session guys. Leyland Sklar, he's the guy with the beard who plays the bass. See him with Phil Collins. John Robinson, Matt Rollins, guitarist Mike Thompson. They're all based in Los Angeles in a little studio. And Mike Oldfield, I think they had like some sort of webcam set up, and Mike Oldfield directed them and added his bits. So it's not an album that's made all together. It's an album, you know, of disparate parts, but it does work. The recording process does work because it does sound very natural, but it doesn't really sound like a Mike Oldfield album. Yeah, it does. You know, you do hear, you know, the Oldfield guitars and the guitar solos, but it's very different to what he's done before, and I think that's what makes it, you know, a bit more interesting to listen to. Yeah, these are standard rock and roll songs. These are they're rock songs, and they rock, and you can listen to them, and they're very radio friendly, and they're very old fashioned in a way. And that's not a bad thing, but what it's got going for it is, the lyrics are kind of good. They're kind of hooky. They're very poppy as well, and you do find yourself humming along. This is what I'm a bit ashamed to say this, because in this world we're supposed to be cynical, and we're not allowed to say what we like, in case we're not deemed as cool as the cool kids, because the cool kids like certain things. But I quite enjoyed this record. I'm ashamed to say. Well, I'm not ashamed. No, God, I'm proud to say I actually enjoyed it for what it was, as being just a standard rock and roll record. And I actually forgot that, halfway through. Well, no, actually, the first few songs, I actually even forgot it was a Mike Oldfield record, because I'm just listening to Luke Spiller, and I'm listening to his voice, and I'm thinking about him. And well, not in that way. I was just thinking about his voice and how he's singing it, and I forgot it was a Mike Oldfield album. So I enjoyed it for a separate kind of reason. I just thought it was just a fairly light and inoffensive record. Yeah, it does drag on a bit. It's one of those ones it's about an hour long. And by the time you get to the end, you're kind of looking. I've got a very short attention span, 45 minutes, and then I start to wander. You know this. I've said it many times before. But he's looking at the records now. Sailing is like the single. That is a great song. We're sailing. It's just a hooky. It's a hooky song. No wonder Radio 2 picked it up. Moonshine, email. Moonshine's okay. Man on the Rocks again. Slightly shifted gear, but again, it's quite catchy. Castaway is quite good, and then, like I say, after that, it gets a little bit, forgetful. Nuclear is quite good. Chariots, I really enjoyed. Following the Angels, again, they slow it down, because you get this. There's a loud track and then there's a slow track. They've structured the album really well, so you're doing that. It's not all one level, so that's pretty good. Irene, which is all about the hurricane. I don't know. I kept thinking of the Small Faces. I kept imagine Steve Marriott singing it. Here comes Irene. But but no, that was all. And then I Give Myself Away. It closes the album. It's it's kind of a reflective song. It brings the album to a kind of slow, reflective end, which is good. It's actually, and it's a cover version as well. I forgot to say it's from a gospel song called I Give Myself Away by William McDowell. That's it. And it kind of rounds up the album nicely. Some of you probably find it boring. Some of you say, "Hey, I'm too cool for this." Some of you, if you like the old rock classics, if you like your Queen and your Rolling Stones and your, and bands of a certain type and ilk, you'll probably like this record too. So it's not all bad. Like I said, you get a second disc. There are multiple versions of this. There's like a standard version, which is one disc. Then there's a deluxe version, which you get a second disc, which has the album in purely instrumental versions, which is okay. You just have the vocals lifted out, and I was listening to that, and they don't work as instrumentals because you're thinking, where's the vocals? But you get to hear the guitars. You get to hear. You can hear Mike Oldfield's guitars in it. If you're a bit of an anorak and you want to hear how he plays and just really focus on those things, it's worth it for that. But is it essential? Probably not. What is interesting is the third bonus disc, which this box set is supposed to be an exclusive, because that you get Oldfield's original demos. It's a double-edged sword. It's good. It's both good and bad. The good is you can hear how he works. You get to look behind the curtain, and his demos are they're really clean. They sound very much like the finished article. In fact, he could have probably just sweetened up those demos, and because he played all himself, and released those with Luke Spiller's voice on. But the double-edged sword is he sings on them, and yeah, Mike Oldfield he's a bit like myself. He's no singer. You know, guitarists, you know, shut up, play your guitar. You know, it's unfortunate, but if you can get past his warbling, it's interesting to hear how those songs, you know, originally began and how they ended up. So, you know, it's a transformative process, but it's kind of interesting. You also get 3 remixes of Sailing, Dreaming in the Wind, Following the Angels, and I Give Myself Away. Slightly alternative mix. I don't know if they're essential. I found the demos much more interesting. So yeah, as an album, I like bits of it. I thought it was a little bit too long. I really like Luke Spiller's voice. I hope his band gets an album out, because I wouldn't mind picking that up, because I think he's the rock vocalist we need. We need someone with big voices like that. People with big voices like that don't necessarily get the bands and the songs behind them. So yeah, that should be good if that happens. A couple of the songs feel like a bit like padding. I could have, you know, done without them. Made it a shorter, more snappier record. You know, you yearn for the old days of vinyl when he would have had to have done it in 45 minutes. So in terms of an actual rating, let me think. I'm going to give this 3.5 Men on the Rocks out of 5. That's 3.5 Men on the Rocks out of 5, and that's for this box set with the demos and that. I'd probably only give it maybe 2.5 if you had the single. You know, it's just a little bit too long. It's a little bit too meandering. Puts Ethan a little bit too meandering in the middle. But there are some strong songs. Sailing, Moonshine, Man on the Rocks, Chariots, I think are great rock songs, and are very, very illustrative of how Mike Oldfield can write a good tune. And it's a shame we don't live in a different time. It's a shame we don't live, 20, 30 years in the past, because these would have been hits. They'd have been on the radio. We'd have seen videos, but times have changed, and it's a young man's game, isn't it? It's a young man's game. Anyway, my name's been Darren Locke, and I've been doing my best to explain and talk about Mike Oldfield's Man on the Rocks, super deluxe edition, and hopefully you found this review informative and entertaining. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to add to that, really. Do subscribe, do thumbs up, do thumbs down, do tell all your friends. And it's Elaine Palmer next week, isn't it? Brain salad surgery. Oh boy. So, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. And more importantly, Prog on.